Welcome back to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. You're looking at live pictures from San Francisco. We're, of course, going to turn to that other major national news story, crashing, spinning, burning, and breaking into pieces. CNN now has exclusive video of the moment a Boeing 777 crashed into the runway in San Francisco. It's one of many pieces of evidence investigators are using right now to try to figure out what went so terribly, terribly wrong. The flight data recorders are already telling them that the flight was coming in too low and too slow for a landing, forcing the pilot to try to abort and pull up just a little more than a second before impact. Asiana Airlines says this was the 9th time this particular pilot had flown a 777, but it was his first attempt at landing it at SFO, which has unique challenges like narrow landing strips right at the water's edge and unpredictable winds. And on this day, there was an added challenge, as you know. The NTSB chairwoman told us that pilots could not rely on an instrument landing system as a backstop. The navigation devices for the runway were down for construction. Looking at the burned out hunk of a fuselage that's still sitting there, it's hard to believe that all but 2 of the 307 passengers and crew survived. 123 of them, amazingly, miraculously, walked away on their own. Still, 182 were hospitalized. Some were paralyzed, and for many, life may never be the same. Sarah Seidner is outside San Francisco General Hospital, where some of the victims are recovering. Sarah, what's the latest you're hearing?
I can tell you that some sad news for many of the families here because at least 2 of the patients that are in the hospital here have been paralyzed, according to doctors, and so their entire lives changed by just something that happened really in a split second. Also, there are 17 patients here still recovering, 6 of them critical, 1 of them a small child. We can tell you that of the 2 patients that died, the 2 people that died there out at the crash, we know that the Chinese consulate, because there were 2 16-year-old, 2 young students who were coming here to have fun, coming to a summer camp. We know that the Chinese consulate who showed up here at the hospital, they told us, look, we are trying to get their parents here, and that many of the parents from China, because there was a large number of students and some teachers on that flight from China, from Shanghai in particular, that those families are actually heading here to San Francisco, that many of them have left China, and that the consulate is helping to get them here and get them in touch with their family members who were victims of this crash. Jake?
And Sarah, of course, we know that the San Francisco Fire Department has said that one of those girls who was killed may have survived the actual crash, and then it is possible that something else happened. Please tell us what the latest is on that.
I have never heard this before, but one of the things that we did hear from fire officials today is that they do believe that one of the emergency vehicles came out trying to save people, trying to save lives, ended up coming into contact, their vehicle, with one of the victims. One of the victims you mentioned just now is one of the 16-year-old students who died. Now the coroner is trying to figure out how that person died, whether she died from the actual plane crash, an injury she sustained from the crash, or whether she was killed after being run over. Jake?
Sarah Seidner in San Francisco, thank you so much. Our world lead today on The Lead is the complicated, chaotic, and deadly state that Egypt is in right now. You're looking at live pictures of Tahrir Square. That's part of a story of a sea change. It's turning into a maelstrom in the Arab world's most populated country. More than 50 people were reported killed in a battle between security forces and protesters who support deposed President Mohamed Morsi, each side blaming the other for the bloodshed. And the U.S. government is not sure how to deal with the situation or even what to call it. Is it a coup? Is it not a coup? White House Press Secretary Jay Carney today would not call it a coup. If he did legally, the U.S. would have to cut off about $1.5 billion in foreign aid to Egypt. Carney said cutting off aid is not in the U.S. interest right now, but he did seem to leave the possibility out there. We're continuing to bring you all the latest in the trial of George Zimmerman, and when we come back, there's a lot of dramatic testimony from today to digest. We'll continue to talk about it with our legal experts. We'll also get a look at where the defense could take this case tomorrow. Stay with us.